Hello everyone. I am Chief Patlin of the Philadelphia Fire Department, and today it is my unfortunate responsibility to report the tragic events that occurred February 23rd, 1991. At 8:40 p.m., the Philadelphia Fire Department was alerted of a large fire on the 22nd floor of One Meridian Plaza. When the fire department arrived on the scene, the 22nd floor was fully engulfed in flames and reaching skywards. Due to technical and mechanical difficulties, this has turned into the most tragic fire that Philadelphia has ever seen. At this time, I would like some of the men in our proud department to disclose the problems they encountered during the grueling 19 hours that the fire burned, so that these problems can be resolved and prevented in the future. And now I would like to introduce Sergeant Yinger, and he will talk a little bit about what went wrong with the electrical power of the building.
There are two power feeds in the building, a primary and a secondary. After we reached the 11th floor, both of the power feeds throughout the entire building were lost. This occurred because the intense heat from the fire floor melted the insulation around the cables between the conductor and the conduit from both power feeds. After the insulation was melted, the cable was shorted out. When both of the power feeds fail, a generator is supposed to kick in, but this also failed. The generator was supposed to be tested every week, but the last recorded test was 4 weeks prior to this fire. During that test, they found that the generator was not working properly. They fixed it and tested it again, and it worked, but this was without a load. Since there was no power in the building, there was no light, nor could we use the elevators. We had to make our way to the 20th floor carrying all our suppression equipment and SCBA replacement cylinders only by battery-powered light. The 20th floor is where the staging area was established, and once we got there, everyone was so tired and exhausted that we weren't even physically fit to fight a fire.
Thank you, Sergeant Yinger. Next, Lieutenant Mooney will talk about the doors and the water pressure of the building.
In the initial attack on the fire crews worked to the 22nd floor where they encountered the west stair tower being locked. The doors of the stair were locked for security reasons, and the building code variance had been granted for this. The firefighters were required to use force to break down the door and fight the fire. Tearing down the door took away minutes that the crew needed to advance towards the fire. The intense heat on the 22nd floor and lack of water pressure for the fire crew's hoses made it impossible for the crew to penetrate onto the 22nd floor. The fire department was using 3/4 inch hose with automatic fog nozzles designed to give variable gallonage at 100 psi. The problem was with the pressure reducing valves, PRVs, in the building. The PRVs were originally installed with improper adjustments, providing less than 60 psi to the hoses. The low water pressure made it nearly impossible for the firefighters to fight the fire. The PRVs were field adjustable using a special tool, but it was not until hours into the fire that a technician who knew how to use the PRVs arrived. Since the index mark value on the valves did not correspond directly to discharge pressures, tables and printed installation instructions had to be used to determine proper settings for each floor, taking up time that the fire department needed. The fire department tried to increasing water pressure in the standpipes by connecting pumpers to the fire department connections and then to the standpipes, but the PRVs were able to prevent the increased pressure through these valves.
Sergeant McMullen will talk about the sprinkler system.
When the construction of One Meridian Plaza began, Philadelphia code required automatic sprinklers to be installed in all underground floors. Code did not require, though, that the installation of automatic sprinklers be for any above ground floors. While One Meridian Plaza was being renovated in the years prior to the fire, tenants did have the option to request automatic sprinkler systems be installed in the floors they occupied. The floors that received automatic sprinkler systems were, besides the 3 underground levels, were the 30th, the 31st, the 34th, 35th, and parts of the 11th and 15th floors. And since the fire started on the 22nd floor, the sprinkler systems were not activated until the fire had already burned through 8 floors. At this point, the sprinklers on the 30th floor suppressed what we firefighters could not.
And now Captain Landis will speak about the ventilation.
The fire in the One Meridian Plaza produced a lot of smoke. All this smoke was then transported throughout the building in the ventilation shafts because they did not have the proper dampening in the ducts to stop the smoke. So the air circulated through the building, carrying the smoke to every floor above the 22nd. This made it very hard for our firefighters to do their job because it was hard to see and the lights were out because of no power. So the smoke was a hindrance to everybody. And also, the building was sealed well and the heat all the heat stayed inside. So the stairwells were filled with smoke and were very hot. In order to relieve some of this heat and smoke, we sent 3 of our firefighters to the top of the stairs in order to open a vent or a door and to release the smoke and heat. On the way up, our 3 firefighters got disoriented on the 30th floor and radioed in asking if they could break a window to relieve some of the smoke so they could see. We radioed back giving permission, and then they radioed back to us saying the captain was down. So he was down, and we immediately started search and rescue to rescue these three men. But we never got to them in time. We spent many hours and manpower trying to rescue these 3 men. But if the building had been ventilated properly, this would have never happened. And all the manpower that went into rescuing them could have been spent fighting the fire. So, and during the time that we were trying to rescue these, we almost lost 8 more men. They were luckily found by another rescue team after about an hour. 3 hours after the guys radioed in and they were lost, we found them on the 30th floor, dead from smoke inhalation. Their names were Captain David P. Holcomb, age 52, Phyllis McAllister, age 43, and James Chappelle, age 29. I'd just like you guys all to remember them as the men they were. Thank you.
Our final firefighter of the night will be Fire Lieutenant Stockline, and he will discuss the need for new protocol in all high-rise structures.
Hello, everyone. As stated before, I will be discussing with you all the renovations and upgrades that all the high-rise buildings must meet. The first thing I will talk about is the stairs. To ensure the stairways are accessible during fires, there will be an emergency system installed, allowing all doors to be unlocked while the alarms are sounded throughout the building. Along with, on the ground floor, we will install a fail switch just in case if for some reason these doors do not come unlocked. The next subject would be the pressure relief valves and the sprinklers. All PRVs must be inspected for efficiency once a year by a professional. The sprinklers must be mandatory on all floors. Based on what we saw happen in this fire, we see how effective that the sprinklers were to help spread of the fire, and that's why they should be mandatory on all floors. The final topic will be the generator. All generators must be tested weekly under full load conditions and fixed by professionals. And then they shall be tested again after the fix. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Stockline. Due to poor maintenance, loose fire code, and a heap of mechanical problems with the One Meridian Plaza high-rise building, the relentless fire on February 23rd took the lives of 3 men devoted to protecting citizens and property of Philadelphia. I hope that their sacrifice was not in vain and that this tragedy will be an example so that future electrical, architectural engineers, and building inspectors reevaluate and ensure that this will never happen again. Thank you.
Who can say where the